And then the next idea is that the weak opponent narrative is a lie, and her team has the receipts. Lonnie Daniels and Daniel Perkins both got knockouts in their very next fight after losing to Shields. And I guess what can we call this? Well, I guess that they would call this the minimization narrative, where you look at Claressa Shields' accomplishments and you try to minimize those accomplishments. But Claressa Shields, as we've established, is objectively elite within female boxing. But of course, people will still hate. That's probably a product of their nature rather than anything objectively true about Claressa Shields. But at the same time, we can still judge the competition without minimizing her accomplishments. So you can acknowledge that Claressa Shields is an elite operator, but question whether the opposition is elite. And in this sense, criticism becomes intellectually dishonest when evaluating the opposition turns into erasing the achievement. Context should sharpen judgment, not become a weapon for minimization. And then the next idea is that she's actually mapped out her own retirement. According to her, this is at age 38. 7 years left. The timer is ticking. One day it won't be that, according to her. She will retire at 38. I guess from my perspective, from an outsider looking in, I think it's good to have a plan, but it's also important to recognize that life is complicated and life has variables and life can disrupt a plan. So it's good to have a plan and it's good to have things that you want to achieve, but it's important to acknowledge that the variables of life can distort that plan. That's the first point. And I think the main thing should be this. The main context should be fight because you want to fight, not because you have to. So if you reach 36 and you don't want to do the preparation, you don't want to do the sparring, you don't want to do the mitts, and you don't want to get into the ring, and you don't want to be a public figure, and you don't want to be a legend, then maybe you should listen to that voice or listen to those voices. So I think I'm not sure if you can just say, okay, at this age, it's over. Because life happens and life changes and you never know what will happen in 8 years' time. But I think the sentiment here is that she won't be fighting past her prime. I think that's the sentiment. And I think that's important because in boxing, it's very hard to get up the mountain. It's very hard to become the 1%. But then it's even harder knowing the correct time to call it a day. And Claressa Shields, it's important to acknowledge, has a very experienced trainer and an experienced team. It's the former trainer of Sergey Kovalev, I believe. So, her trainer has a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of understanding, and their guidance and their mentorship is essential, not just about the decisions that she makes in the ring, but also about the decisions she makes outside of the ring. And the healthiest ending may be leaving boxing while the desire still belongs to you. That's crucial because there is a profound difference between choosing to fight and needing to fight. You still want to have that love. You still want to have that passion. And then the next idea is that the 16,000 tickets sold, the first time a woman has headlined an event at that number. Is Shields building a career or building the case that women's boxing is the next big business? By the way, I'm not sure if that premise is entirely true, but the point is that female boxers headlining an event, this is good for female boxing, and female boxing needs to keep the momentum. It needs to keep the momentum. We need excitement and we need rivalries. We need marketing and we need investment. Female boxing has the potential to be exponentially huge. It has the potential to be really big. The problem, and I think it is a big problem, is that Eddie Hearn and Jake Paul, they own the real estate in female boxing. I believe they own 90% of the real estate in female boxing. So I would argue to get maximum leverage in female boxing, you need to collaborate with these entities. So in a sense, talent creates possibility, but industries, they grow through infrastructure. Women's boxing will only reach its ceiling. It will only reach its ceiling when performance, rivalry, and investment and distribution begin moving all in the same direction. And then finally, Claressa Shields states that God basically chose me to be number one, and I trained to stay number one. She diets, she runs, she never gets complacent. Is this the secret to her dominance, a gift, or the refusal to ever rely on the gift? When you think of discipline, faith, and consistency, what is that? Well, when executed properly, it's a recipe for success. But it's easy to say it. It's easy to say that I have discipline, faith, and consistency, but it's excruciatingly hard to repeat that for 10 years, for 15 years, and 20 years. The point is, the words are strong, but the actions are even stronger. And in a sense, talent may explain how somebody reaches the summit. So there may be an explanation there with regards to the power of talent, but discipline explains how they remain at the top of the summit. Because greatness is rarely one extraordinary act. It is ordinary sacrifice repeated over the years, time and time again.